Hey there, and welcome to the Airlock Module Podcast. I am your host, Yuki Nishimura. Before we jump in, if you're enjoying the show, please follow or subscribe wherever you're listening and leave a rating and review. It's a quick action that genuinely helps more people find the podcast. And if you've conducted an analog mission or supported a mission in the habitat, in mission control, and you are on the team, and you'd like to be on the show, please reach out to me at airlockmodule@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Today's guest is Adriana Talianova, a first-year mechanical engineering student at Northwestern University based in the Chicago area. Originally from Slovakia and someone who's already built a serious hands-on mix of experience across analog missions, mission control, and engineering, Adriana takes us inside her first analog mission at the Analog Astronaut Training Center in Krakow, Poland, where she served as communications officer and used 3D design and printing to improve habitat hardware, from camera mounts for better MCC visibility to rover fixes. And yes, we tell the full story of the legendary mousetronaut, a habitat mouse that turned into a 3-day engineering side quest involving flower footprints, sacrificed peanut butter, and custom 3D printed mouse traps. From there, we shifted to Asclepios Mission Control inside the Sasso San Gotardo Fortress in Switzerland, where Adriana worked as flight activity officer, constantly reshuffling astronaut timelines as reality collided with the schedule, and later returned as CAPCOM, the only person in mission control allowed to speak directly to the crew. We talk about what that responsibility feels like, how to deliver information clearly when seconds matter, and why the real job isn't making big decisions, it's shaping communications so the astronauts can act on them. If you're into analog missions, mission ops, human factors, or the engineering behind living and working in extreme environments, this one's for you. All right, let's step into today's airlock. This is Adriana Talianova.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Thanks for being on the show. So to start us off, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're based today and where you're originally from, and what does life look like outside of space and engineering?
Yeah, so hi, my name is Adriana. I'm originally from Slovakia, but right now I'm in the US, in Chicago, studying mechanical engineering at Northwestern University. So it's my first year here. I just got back from Christmas break. Outside of engineering, it's really cold here actually, so there's not that much to do, but I really like exploring the new city. It's great. There's so much art, so much culture going on. So I really like it. But being an engineering student, after all, you do spend most of your time in a lab or in a basement working on something.
I have a little bit of history with Evanston. So my sister-in-law and her husband used to live in Evanston. My brother-in-law, he went to Garrett, which is the theology school that's right next to Northwestern. At that time, we were living in Tennessee, so we would just drive up, and then they would take us out to like Andy's Custard and DeSalvo's Pizza, but like all in that little cute downtown area. I love that little city. It's very cute.
No, it's lovely. There's so many things I haven't explored yet. Maybe you have some wrecks I haven't encountered yet.
That's really the only two places that I remember. And there's like a coffee shop right like near Andy's Custard. Just kind of looking through your LinkedIn profile, some of the information that you've shared. You've balanced a pretty intense mix of school, mission ops, and athletics, like swimming, running, bouldering. How do you have time for all of that?
So I'd like to first start by clarifying that I did like none of the sports at a competitive level. They're all like hobbies. So there are physical outlets that I just like use because I can go for a run here, but it doesn't have to be like an intense run. I don't have to do it super regularly, and I can go for a swim just to unwind in the evening. But again, it's not super intense. But yeah, I've been like really loving those because at some point, if you like do so much studying, do all these different things, it gets so busy. You just like need some time off of screen, at least for me. This is the way I can like get myself to not do any more work, not do anything else, just like really like be with my thoughts and stuff. So yeah, I've been really loving that. But balancing it out, Well, it's pretty difficult, right? There's only so much time you have in a day. But I feel like if I can get pretty effective with my studying, I have some really, good habits I've developed and I'm working on. And I really enjoy doing the activities outside of school. So it's not like I'm forcing myself to do them. I like genuinely am excited about getting to work on it. So I think that helps a lot in like creating the time to work on that.
Between Evanston and Chicago, there's like a running path along the water. Do you ever run that?
I do actually. Well, not now because it's super cold, but I
Yeah,
did like in September, October.
I think I've never had a chance to do that. Excuse me. But like I always imagine like, oh, this will be a nice place to like either just walk or run.
Sure, there's so many, like either by like the lake or by the river in the city center of Chicago. Like I can imagine both, like hopefully in the summer.
Cool. And then also, on top of all of that, you do a lot of graphic design work, from making merch to mission patches. What do you love about visually representing missions?
I think it's just like so fun to see like people wear your designs or like seeing them come to life. Like for example, mission patches, like it's like a design in your computer, it's something you work on for so long. And then from all of a sudden, like analog astronauts are wearing, their suits and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
all over whatever. And I feel like that's such a like cool thing to get to work on and get to create and someone like appreciating what you did.
Yeah, that's an amazing feeling. I belong to a group called ARG, and it's part of the American Military University where I got my space studies degree. We have a group that does analog astronaut work, and every mission, like we will have the crew members and mission controls and the staff members design patches for it, and then we all vote. And on one of them, I was able to get mine voted, and everybody, including myself, wore it on the mission, and that was a really good feelings. I'm definitely there with you. So your path didn't start with analog missions; it began with astrophysics. How did that evolve into human spaceflight and mission operations?
I just like started exploring different things. Like originally I was just like, what you get exposed in at school. So like math, science, like okay, this is interesting. You have some regular physics class where you learn a little bit of everything, right? So a little bit of other sciences. But I really enjoyed those and I started like reading on my own and I just like the idea of like exploring space as a whole. And I think like like the major areas you come across is astrophysics because that's what exploring space is about. And I found it really interesting, but the more I like got into it, try different stuff, I think for me personally, it was like a touch like too theoretical, like not very hands-on, I'm here for engineering, so I like to like do stuff a little bit closer, stuff you can test. I started with astrophysics and then I kind of like shifted a little. It was very like a progress, but I think I'm like very happy in like exploring spaceflight for now, especially like human spaceflight, like the human applications.
When did you know you wanted to go into astrophysics?
I think it was like early years of high school, all across elementary, middle school. I've always loved mathematics. Like that was my thing. That was like the thing I was good at. I could compete at. I just really loved that. And at some point, when you get into maths, it kind of becomes physics. Like there's like a
Yeah,
huge
yeah.
overlap. So like I think like early years of high school, I really started to enjoy physics, which I didn't realize up until then. And kind of from there, there's like what I did like the A-level curriculum and like the GCSE one, the British one, and there is like the last chapter of the book is like astrophysics. And it's like super elementary. It's just like one chapter, just like an intro. And it was my
Yeah.
favorite. So I guess there.
Early on, you worried about not being taken seriously because of your age. Did that ever come true? And if so, when did that start to shift for you?
I feel like naturally, like I'm still like I can't say like I'm not worried because I'm still like in my first year of undergrad. It's not like I can say, oh, like I've grown out of this. I like done my studies and I'm like a working professional now, right? Uh, but I feel like it never like really came through. Like I was really lucky to work in like environments where like people like didn't bring me down because of it, or like it was never an issue I had to face. And everyone was always super supportive. Yeah, and I think it just like allowed me to learn a lot of new things because there was not like this expectation that I like already know so much stuff. It was kind of like people assumed that I was less experienced, which I think was actually a helpful thing in different situations. But I don't think I can say like I've fully like outgrown that phase. Like I'm more confident because I know I have some experiences, but it's still there's always I feel like a little bit of imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I think everybody has a little bit of that.
For sure.
So let's jump into your missions. Your first mission experience was with the Analog Astronaut Training Center. The mission was called Asterias. Tell us how you got connected. How did you find AATC and get onto the mission itself?
I have this like habit of like when I get interested in something, I will spend hours Googling and I will get super invested in it. And I will like, get like very niche into a particular subject for a period of time. So I've, at that point, I've been like hearing about analog missions. I was still like living in Europe. I was still in high school
Okay.
when this was taking place. And so, I've been like kind of looking around. There is a Slovak analog astronaut I've been following online, so I've been like, I had like the idea of analog missions. Of course, it seemed like super like out of reach, but I still kind of like kept an eye on different stuff, And then at some point they were like looking, for like a crew, open call for astronaut type of situation. Like there's nothing to lose if you apply. So that was my mindset for a really long time. So I was like, okay, like I'll send in my application. I'll probably, have to do a little bit of explaining, like I'm not in university, whatever. But like the worst thing they can say is no, right? So I applied and I got to be part of this incredible mission that kickstarted it all. So I really just like took a shot and saw what happened.
That's good for you. Good for you. So where did the mission take place?
It was in Krakow, Poland. It's really not far from Slovakia, actually, a few hours. So that was convenient.
How many crew members were in that mission? What was your role and how many days was the mission?
The mission was 10 days, so just under 2 weeks. I believe originally we were supposed to be 40 members, but there was a visa, like last minute visa issue,
Oh
because the
no.
person was not coming from Europe. So it was only 3 of us. So it was a really small crew, but an interesting experience, right? And I was the communications officer. So it was more of like, as a communications officer, I of course like did all the communication with the mission control, wrote like report, did briefing, debriefing, etc. But then also like there's more stuff to do. Obviously, you're not just gonna be writing reports all day. So I did a little bit of like elementary engineering. We like 3D printed a bunch of stuff to like improve the habitat and like tested those. It was like these projects to make like the whole habitat better. Also like repaired a part of a rover. A bunch of like these different things I could be helpful with.
Within my organization, typically the crew commander works with mission control. It sounds like for analog astronaut training centers that there is a dedicated communications officer that communicates with mission control. I guess what model is better?
Well, that's
This is more
interesting.
for like my learning. Because my organization does things a little bit differently, and so I'm just curious what your thoughts are in having a
Yeah.
dedicated person versus crew commander having the conversation between MCC.
That's an interesting question because in all the models I worked on, like I later worked in the mission control as well, and we also had a designated communications officer. So I never really like worked with the model where it's like the commander's job to communicate. Like I can't really like, I feel like when it comes to like everyday scenarios, it's probably not a huge difference, right? But maybe when it comes to like a more of like intense scenario where the commander must be like making some sort of decision, but it also needs to be communicated to MCC at the same time, that might become the issue. So I think that's like the main reasoning. But like, like 90% of the time, I feel like if the person who is doing the communication is effective at it, whether it's the commander or a communications officer,
Yeah.
I don't think there's a huge difference.
I guess in hindsight, like it will give the crew commander a little more headspace to be able to focus on the mission itself versus having to also work on the communication part with MCC. Yeah, it's something
Yeah.
to think about, to take back to my organization.
Also, like, it depends on like how big the crew is, I guess. If you have only a limited amount of people, at some point some people need to take like multiple roles to make it work. But if it's a huge crew and you can afford to have a designated person for it, I guess that would make it a little easier.
Yeah, yeah. So you had 3 crew members, one had to miss out. Were you still having to work with the same number of research, or did the research that the 4th person that was gonna bring in get canceled?
It was canceled as well. Like they
Okay,
were also like the PI of the research, so it was really like their research. So we were like, there's not really much
okay.
we
So it's
can
not
do
like your
without them being
time had
there.
to stretch because you
No, no,
had to
no,
do extra work.
no.
That's good. What project or research did you bring into the mission?
It was not really a research again. It was more of like the engineering aspect of like how we can improve the habitat. And so there were really a bunch of like smaller projects. It was not one big thing that I would continuously work on. But for example, I 3D printed and designed like a camera holder that would allow the cameras to rotate and for the MCC to see the base clear 3D printed repairing parts for the rover that we already mentioned. So it was really like a bunch of different tasks, which I feel like made it pretty interesting to like work on different aspects of it. But it was really more about like improving the habitat in terms of living there more than doing some, scientific research in terms of publishing a paper and the stereotypical kind.
So before you came into the hab, did you already have some list of things to improve and fix, or are these things that like when you came in and you started living in that space, figure out what to improve on?
We had some preliminary list of like what the mission control knew they would like for us to work on. But as we came along, we either uncovered more issues in that area that we had to fix, or if there was something that like really bothered us, which really I don't think that happened, right? Because so many crews lived there before us, like they probably already picked up on that. But we were also like, if we would find something, I'm sure they would be happy to hear like our issue and our solution to what we found.
Nice, nice. All right, we have to talk about the mouse. Can you tell us the full mousetronaut story?
Yeah. I would say this is the most valuable piece of 3D printing I've done in this whole base was a trap to catch a mouse. But to give you the whole story, basically this habitat is in a forest, right? It's not like isolated somewhere, right? You'll never come into these issues if you were actually in space, but we are still on Earth. And about like midway through our stay there, we see a mouse just running through the tables. And she just like runs through and escapes. And so we all just like, stare at each other. We're like, what do you do? We didn't know where it went, but it left. So we're like, okay, there's a chance of animals being here, I guess now. But we kind of ignore it. Right? And then there's like a glove box to perform a bunch of experiments. It's like isolated and you can insert your hands in and do the experiment. And so at some point, someone opens the glove box and then there's a mouse living in there that runs out. And we are like, okay, we have a mouse issue at this point. We cannot ignore this. And so what we do is we first set up like a trap, like some traditional, like she'll like fall somewhere. And we even sacrifice like some of our food. We like left like food there for her, for her to like come and eat it. And then we even like it was so elaborate. We like left flour around, so like when she would come, we would like see where she like went through. Anyways, we wake up in the morning. There's like her little like prints in the flour, so she like was there. But the peanut butter we left her is gone, but there's no mouse in the trap. Like genuinely, we got screwed over by a mouse. Uh, At that point, it's personal, right? So we stop like all the 3D printing projects. We start 3D printing different mouse traps. So it's like a whole day. 3D prints take time. So we spent like solid half a day 3D printing different kinds. We set them up. It took us 3 days. On the third day, we finally catch the mouse.
Yes. Well,
We're thrilled. It's amazing. And so we're like, but what do we do with it? And if you just let it go outside the airlock, it just comes back, right? She can't get in, obviously. So we keep her. We build her a little habitat where she's staying, like a Jasper box. We even sacrifice like our breakfast to her every morning, a little piece, so she eats well taken care of. And so we proclaimed her the first ever mousetronaut type of thing. But what's really funny is that when we left the base, right, we just like left her there because there's another crew coming like right after. So it was just like a rotation thing. They would come in and we were still in Krakow. It was like post-mission. And the day after we get a text message that the mouse has escaped. So I think the next crew had an equal amount of fun with it as we did.
Oh my gosh. Were you designing the mouse traps in real time, or were you taking like existing designs and asking MCC to share those files with you?
We took some existing designs, exactly, and MCC like sent some over. We had to modify them a little because it's not like you have like everything you have in a common household, right? So we like had to change that stuff, like see which worked. But I think we did like 3 solid designs.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. So you touched on food. What were you guys eating in there? Packaged food that you just needed to like add water and heat, or did you have ingredients that you were cooking? What did that look like?
The way it works here is that you have ingredients to cook with. Obviously they're not fresh ingredients, so it's not like you have fruits or vegetables really. It's just like really like stuff that survives for a really long time. And we like make our own meals, but they're not difficult to make. It's usually just something, water, but they're not like the pre-packaged food that most analog missions use. However, some of our snacks were like some of those like pre-packaged, but it was not like the main source of food.
Nice. Yeah, I've done analogs where like we had ingredients and then we will cook it a small kitchen, and then I did another mission where we had nothing but like MREs or pre-cooked products that we just had to heat up. I think it's more realistic to have like the pre-cooked side because that's kind of what like the International Space Station does mostly. I think for like the crew morale and just like the bonding and engagement, it was fun to like cook together and have that moment.
I never did the mission. I mean, when I was in mission control, our astronauts had like the pre-packaged food, but I've like never really like tried it, like lived with it for a few days. So I think that would be an interesting experience.
I mean, yeah, they're hit or miss. Some are good, some are not so good. Was your water rationed?
Water was rationed. Like I feel like that's every analog ever, right? Like you can't have unlimited water in space. So we had these like large containers, water bottles that we know we had like for 10 days, and we had like, we had to ration it. We also had to flush the toilet with it and cook with it, so it was not just drinking water. As in terms of showers, since it was only a 10-day mission, we did not really shower. What we had access to were like wet wipes, which we used after exercise. But yeah, I have not taken like a shower in the habitat.
Did you run out of water at the end? Or did you
No, we actually saved quite a bit. Like, we did pretty well, I think.
Nice. Okay, let's move on to your 2 other missions. Where did the mission take place for Asclepios 4 M5?
Both of the missions took place in the same place. So, it's in a fortress, Sasso San Gotardo. It's in Switzerland, in like a small town.
With Asclepios 4, as a flight activity officer or FAO, you were responsible for astronaut timelines. But those schedules don't generally survive a day without being changed. So, what does real-time time management actually look like?
You're so right. They don't survive. Like, they don't survive hours without being changed. I mean, that's why we're there, right? If they wouldn't need us during the mission control. So basically, like, the role is, like, you look at this, like, timeline of every single astronaut. Like, they each have their own, like, exactly what they're doing at what time. And basically you change that according to what the other people are telling you, right? So let's say we, like, plan something, but then, the BME, so like the biomedical officer, tells you this astronaut needs to rest, or like it can really be anything, like an experiment taking longer than it should, something missing for the experiment so it needs to be postponed, like anything you can imagine, right? Like plans change all the time. And so you'd like have to rearrange the schedule and kind of like talk to other people to see if you can move this, or like that would create another issue. And it's kind of like this personal planner for the astronauts, I would say. But it's actually really like interesting to see how quickly everything changes all the time in the mission control. I would say like most of the time you can just like shift things around when it's like, like minor, adjustments. What I think is really important is that you still need to schedule in like their resting time. You can't just like keep taking time off of their day until they're like working the whole day. But it depends. There's a schedule when everything is planned the way it's supposed to be originally. So if something needs to shift, then it's really based off of priorities. Like, does this or this need to be done today? And based off of that, we can shift something to the other day if it's not urgent. If an experiment needs to be done every other day, then we can't move it to the next day, right? So there's like always this like hierarchy, I guess, like making sure our priorities are in place. And if something needs to be moved, well, yeah, something needs to go somewhere else.
Did you ever have to cut out like an EVA? Usually EVAs take kind of the longest or the biggest block to make room for other things that may have shifted.
No, we didn't, because most of our experiments actually took place during EVA, or at least like a significant portion. So EVAs were really, really important, and we would make sure to prioritize those.
Nice. You also served as records officer, listening to multiple comms loop in parallel. What kind of cognitive load does that require?
It's such an interesting role. Like we cut it like out of MCC this year, in Asclepios 5, it was no longer a thing.
Mhm.
And it's like the thing they make do like the people who are there for the first year, right? And it's actually a great learning opportunity because you get to listen to so many people. But literally your task is to like listen to all these conversations and take notes off of them, like what happened in like the key kind of events of the day. So that other people, like the CAPCOM dealing with everything, doesn't have to take his own notes in parallel with that. So it's like for you to really prioritize. Like if you have all the loops turned on at once, you don't know what's happening because there are 7 voices you hear. So you can't do that. You would usually prioritize the CAPCOM, the flight director, because anyways, when someone decides on something, they need to tell the CAPCOM anyways. If you listen to his loop, you kind of get like the main gist of all of the decisions made without like listening to the intermediate steps. But occasionally you'd have to listen here and there depending on what was happening. So it's really for you to like make a priority list of like where you think that important information is taking place right now and choosing the correct loops to listen to.
So I'm also personally curious about this because our organization, we don't have a records officer that listens in. So, and we have the mission control person taking notes for what they talk to the crew members, as well as to our directors that are making some of the bigger decisions that MCC can't answer. And it sounds like Asclepios 5 removed that role. What model do you think is better?
The CAPCOM who had to take my own notes. Like I didn't find it like such a like outrageously time-consuming, difficult task. So I think it's pretty manageable. Of course, they're like not there like the second it's being discussed, right? If we have like an issue we're discussing, I'll first like make sure to resolve it, let the astronauts know, and then I will note it down. So there's like a little bit of delay, and if like someone else like might need the information at the moment, it might be perfect. But I also feel like it depends again, like what kind of people do you have in the MCC? How many people are there in the MCC? If you can just like afford to have a records officer, maybe like a newer member who's there for the to learn how things work, it's like a really like a non-invasive role to maybe do for a few shifts to see how the others interact, right? So I don't think it's like a role that like should be avoided, but also if you have only a limited amount of people and you need them on different roles, I feel like everyone is pretty capable of taking their own notes of what happened. So I don't have like a strong opinion on one or the other. I think it really depends on like the model you want to set up and how many people and what kind of people you have.
Would you ever do a mission there, or are you taking a break to focus on school?
If I had the opportunity to like go there and become an analog astronaut there, or even like join the mission control again, I for sure would. Like, it's such a great environment. The whole mission, they're really well done. The projects are really interesting. They're really great. So I love everything about it. Like, I would come back in an instant. Also, I'm aware of the fact I'm on a different continent now. And it's not so easy for me to be going back and forth, dress rehearsal, that training, that kind of training. I'm still working with Asclepios. I'm a mission control training officer, and I'm helping with some graphic design here and there, more merch coming maybe. So I'm still involved. I just, I'm not able to make it in person to all these events and be as involved as I was.
During Asclepios 4, you ended up managing Swiss hiking traffic so astronauts could do EVAs. What were some of the expressions on the hikers' faces when you told them there's a Martian mission happening just up ahead?
No, this is so funny because we're in Switzerland near the Italian borders. So people speak Swiss German, they speak English, they speak French, they speak Italian. You don't really know how to approach these people. There's so many different kinds of people who speak different languages. And I personally don't speak any of these, right? So what we did, it was me and at that time the head of mission control. We were just sitting on this big rock on top of the trail, and we would have recordings on our phones of different people who spoke those languages explaining the situation, Italian with. So we would just stop these people, and we would be like, hey, what language do you speak? And they would okay, Italian, let's say. And then we'd be like, okay, hold up. And we would find the recording and just be like, here you go. They were so confused. I feel like it was really funny. Some of them were just like, yeah, okay, good luck with your project. And then they went down anyway. It's they just straight up ignored. So it was, such a side quest. Happens, yeah.
That's hilarious. Okay, Asclepios 5, you had a role of CAPCOM. What was your responsibility as CAPCOM, and how did that differ from your typical mission control?
CAPCOM is the only person in the mission control who can communicate directly with the astronauts. So it was basically all of the other smart people managing their different things in the mission control, giving me the information they need to tell the astronauts, right? And I would tell them the information, and then astronauts would tell me, whatever they need from us, and I would kind of be relaying this information. So it's a lot of information to process, of course, but I think the difficult part is really to decide, in what way you're telling the astronauts, because they have their own set of issues, right? And we have our own set of issues we're facing in the mission control. But at the same time, we don't want, we want to maintain a good relationship with them. We want to respect what they need from us. And in the way you deliver stuff matters a lot. And kind of building this relationship with the communications officer on the other side, really understanding. But then also giving information really efficiently and effectively, because if it's something that needs to be done or they ask you a technical question, you want to give them the answer they're looking for, a lot of things around it. So it's really kind of processing the information in your head and deciding what and how to deliver to the astronauts, or the other way around to the mission control.
So I guess I need, if you can clarify for me. So in our organization, mission control is the one that communicates with the crew members, and CAPCOM for us is the person that will make some important decisions that mission controllers can't make on the fly. With AATC or Asclepios 4 and 5, what was the role of mission control, and how they differ from CAPCOM?
The way it works in Asclepios is that the mission control is about 8 people. We did nearly 24 hours. We did a little less, so it was let's say 20 hours. I'm not sure about the exact number. And each of them has a different role, right? So, there's the FAO we mentioned and a bunch of different people. But the CAPCOM is really the only one from the mission control who can talk to the astronauts. So he's really the one relaying information. When it comes to making decision, it is the flight director. So he's sitting right next to CAPCOM, and he's the one who makes the decision. So really, CAPCOM can't really make a decision, right? Because if it's a technical question from the astronaut, you go and ask the person who knows. And then if it's a whole mission type of decision, it's the flight director who's making the decision. So you're really the only decisions you're making as a CAPCOM is how do I put this information? How do this kinds of like communication style, but you're not really making like these huge decisions about the mission.
Interesting. I do like that model. Within the 8 mission controllers, like there's the FAO. I'm assuming others are like maybe monitoring health of the astronauts and other mission critical things that are happening.
We have a science officer who's in contact with the PIs. They're very aware of like what the experiments are. They are usually trained on the experiments with the astronauts. So science officer, biomedical, who's also like monitoring the health data. They're usually the only one that like that's very confidential. And there's like cases where the biomedical officer can talk to the astronaut when it's like one-on-one type of situation. So that's what the CAPCOM doesn't deal with, but everything else goes through. Even when there's a shift in the schedule, they can see it, but I would usually be like, hey, like guys, like check your schedules. There's been a change. Make sure you refresh and you're aware. So like really anything that happens, I would just kind of let them know.
Interesting. Did you guys have a time delay built in between Earth and the crew members?
It was a moon mission, so it was not like a Mars one. It would be 20 minutes, but we did have like the exact amount of seconds it would be between moon and Earth. We had that built into our communications, which I think was really cool. It was just a few seconds, you wouldn't really notice, but they were there. So that was, I think, a really great way they built the mission control. And then they also lived on like a different time zone, so like they went to sleep when it was like our time did not align with their time inside the base, so there was like a time shift of like 4 hours, I think.
So you have the 8 mission controllers, and then you have the CAPCOM, and then you have flight director, and CAPCOM being the only person that can speak with the crew members. How did you do the shift?
There were 3 shift rotations actually, so it was like around 6, 7 hours approximately, for each CAPCOM. So there were multiple CAPCOMs. We would just switch around. So I would not work 16 hours. Usually around 8 tops. And then I would leave, do whatever, go hiking, go to Switzerland. So like hang out with everyone else, and another CAPCOM would come in.
Stepping out of your analog missions and into your engineering life, I believe you worked on lunar power systems, robotics, and mission ops. Where do you see yourself contributing long term?
This is a great question, which I think I'm still trying to figure out. But I'm here at Northwestern in my first year here, so I've really like been exploring different things I can do around here. We have like space and space technology organization, so I've been really involved in that. I'm working in rocketry, so like I'm working on building a rocket which will be launching in the summer, which is like super exciting. But then I also worked on like the research side. So what you just mentioned, it was just like it's still actually in progress. It's not even completed. It's just like a research kind of overview of how we can like manage our resources on the moon. It's also part of a competition that we're working on. So I'm just trying different stuff. So I think it's hard to say if I would get to contribute to like the engineering aspect of human spaceflight. So like maybe designing the spacesuits, maybe designing the robotic gloves, like anything that would like help the astronauts. I think that would be absolutely insanely cool, and I would have loved that, but you never know. We'll see.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your experiences at AATC and the 2 Asclepios missions. Where can the listeners follow your work?
Thank you so much for having me. I, post a little on Instagram, so if you just search up my surname, it should be there. And of course, LinkedIn. I'm happy, if you reach out to me, I'll be happy to chat about whatever questions you have.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you for spending your Sunday with me. And I will stop the recording. If you enjoyed this conversation, please take a moment to follow the Airlock Module Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And please leave a positive review or rating. It really helps the algorithm boost the show so that more people can discover these stories and join our growing analog astronaut community. You can also connect with me on social media, on Instagram, Threads, and on X. If you would like to go one step further in supporting the show, I've set up a Patreon where donations are just $3 a month. Your support helps cover the monthly costs of website hosting, editing software, podcast hosting, and other things that help improve the quality of what you hear. Every contribution goes right back into the podcast. I will also thank every contributor at the end of the show. Thank you so much for tuning in and for being part of this journey. Until next time.